Your hamburger is a scam. You bought it 3 days ago, sealed in plastic, refrigerated at exactly 38 degrees every second, and yet, when you peel back that packaging, there is a smell, slightly sour, faintly metallic, the unmistakable warning that decay has begun. By day 5, the surface has darkened to grey-brown. Moisture pools at the bottom, mixing with blood. And you are asking yourself, is this still safe, or am I gambling with food poisoning? Now rewind 2,000 years to a Roman household. Meat was salted within hours of slaughter, dried in open air, sometimes smoked, then stored in clay vessels or hung from beams. Not for days or weeks, for months, stretching into years. In documented cases, meat remained edible for 3 full years or longer, all without artificial cooling. That should make you uncomfortable with everything you have been told about modern food safety. We are assured that modern food is safer, cleaner, and more advanced. We have refrigeration, factory processing, chemical preservatives, and strict regulations. Romans had none of that, and yet their meat often outlasted ours by orders of magnitude. So here is the question. Did we actually improve food preservation, or did we just make it more profitable while sacrificing durability? If you are curious how ancient systems solved problems we have reintroduced despite all our technology, subscribe. Because this is not about celebrating the past, it is about understanding why our food fails so quickly now. We've been taught a specific idea of what makes food safe: cold temperatures, plastic packaging, expiration dates. As long as meat stays refrigerated and sealed, we assume it's protected. Freshness has become the gold standard: soft texture, bright color, moist surface. Anything dry, dark, or firm triggers suspicion. That belief would have made no sense to Romans. To them, fresh meat was the most dangerous stage, unstable, vulnerable, already counting down to decay. Preservation began immediately because the goal was not short-term safety. It was about durability measured in years. Modern meat systems are built around speed. Animals are slaughtered, processed, packaged, transported, and sold as fast as possible. The entire chain assumes constant refrigeration at every step. Remove the cold, and the system collapses. Roman food systems assumed the opposite: heat, time, distance, and delay. Meat had to survive storage, travel, and unpredictable conditions without ice or electricity. That assumption shaped every decision. Because once you stop asking how we keep things cold, you start asking how we make them impossible to ROT. In Roman households, meat was never expected to be eaten fresh for long. Slaughtering was expensive, time-consuming, and infrequent. When it happened, the priority was preservation. Large cuts were rubbed with salt, hung in moving air, or exposed to smoke. Smaller pieces were submerged in brine, vinegar, or wine. Nothing was wrapped, nothing was sealed. Moisture was the enemy. Roman writers like Cato and Columella described these methods casually, like we talk about refrigeration today. They were not trying to slow decay. They were trying to stop it. Their methods changed meat itself into something bacteria could no longer use. So, if ancient households could turn meat stable without machines, plastic, or cold, why does modern meat collapse the moment refrigeration fails? To understand why Roman meat lasted, you need to understand what causes rot. Spoilage is biology. Bacteria need 3 things: food, the right temperature, and available water. Fresh meat provides all 3. It is nutrient-rich, kept at comfortable temperatures, and full of water bacteria can freely use. Scientists call this water activity, the amount of water microbes can access. Fresh meat sits at 0.99. That is why it spoils quickly. Roman preservation attacked this directly. Salting, drying, and airflow removed usable water at a molecular level. Salt binds water so tightly bacteria cannot access it. Drying pulls liquid from muscle fibers. Air circulation prevents moisture from settling back. The meat might contain water, but it is locked away, unavailable. To bacteria, it is like standing in a desert with food everywhere, but nothing to drink. Modern refrigeration does not do this. Cold slows bacteria, but does not starve them. When temperatures rise, activity resumes. Roman methods did not pause decay. They dismantled the conditions that made decay possible. Once water was controlled, something remarkable happened. The meat stopped being fragile. Salt was the backbone, but not like we think of it today. It was not sprinkled for flavor. It was applied aggressively, repeatedly. When salt covered meat, it triggered osmosis immediately. Water inside muscle cells was drawn outward, carrying blood, sugars, and nutrients bacteria need. As liquid left, texture changed, flesh tightened, weight dropped 15 to 30%. What remained was denser, darker, and far less hospitable to life. Salting also changed chemistry inside the meat. Dissolved salt split into ions that bound water molecules. The water did not disappear, but became unusable. From a microbial view, the environment turned hostile. Modern meat systems avoid this at all costs. Weight loss is bad for profit. So instead of pulling water out, they put it back in through mechanical injection, sometimes increasing weight 15 to 25%. So basically, you are paying meat prices for tap water. Roman preservation accepted loss to gain stability. Modern processing sacrifices stability to gain volume. That trade-off explains why Roman meat could sit safely for months, while modern meat stays one power outage away from rot. Salt got meat most of the way there, but was not the final protection. That came from air, smoke, and acidity. These elements worked together to finish what salt started. Drying in moving air did more than remove surface moisture. It created an environment where bacteria struggled to settle. Without stagnant moisture, colonies could not establish. Smoke added another dimension. Roman smoking was slow and cool, not hot and fast. Wood smoke carried compounds that settled onto the meat's surface, forming a protective layer. These did not just add flavor, they actively interfered with microbial growth, and they slowed fat from going rancid. Acidity completed the system. Vinegar, wine, and fermented liquids lowered surface pH to 5.0 or lower. Most harmful bacteria struggle in acidic environments. They cannot multiply or thrive. Each method alone helped. Together, they created overlapping barriers. Remove water, limit oxygen, lower pH, disrupt fat decay, layered preservation, designed to make spoilage unlikely, even over years. And this system did not just work in kitchens, it worked across an empire. Because Roman preservation was an actual imperial necessity, legions marched hundreds of miles carrying preserved meat that had to remain safe without refrigerated wagons. Ships crossed the Mediterranean for weeks with no refrigeration, no sealed packaging, and no margin for failure. Forts on the empire's edge stored food through winters, sieges, and supply delays. If preservation failed, soldiers starved. Roman logistics assumed food had to endure time and distance. Salted and dried meats were light, compact, and stable. They did not leak, swell, or spoil in transit. Today, meat can travel thousands of miles, but only inside a perfectly controlled bubble of cold, plastic, and speed. Break that bubble, and food fails immediately. Which raises a question Romans would have found strange. Why build a food system that collapses when conditions stop being ideal? The shift hour from Roman preservation did not happen because it stopped working. It happened because something else became cheaper. the cold. As refrigeration spread, food no longer had to be stable. It just had to stay cold long enough to be sold. Preservation gave way to storage. Instead of changing meat so bacteria could not survive, the system simply slowed bacteria and hoped nothing went wrong. This changed everything. Meat could be processed faster, sold wetter, and moved in larger volumes. There was no need to wait weeks for salt and air to work. There was no need to accept weight loss. Time became the enemy. Speed became the goal. The entire food chain reorganized around one assumption: electricity will always be there. Refrigeration did not replace preservation because it was better. It replaced it because it was faster, easier to scale, and more profitable in the short term. Once cold became the solution, the old questions stopped being asked. Not how do we make this last, but how fast can we move it? Once cold storage became the safety net, meat no longer needed to be dry, firm, or chemically hostile. The opposite became more profitable. Meat holding more water weighed more. Meat staying soft looked fresher. Meat moving quickly reduced storage costs, so water was added back through mechanical injection. Modern processing introduces moisture through brines forced deep into tissue and through phosphates causing muscle fibers to swell. The result looks plump and appealing, but sits dangerously close to spoilage the moment refrigeration falters. This is not limited to cheap products. Supermarket meat, deli slices, vacuum-packed cuts, all depend on the same fragile assumption. Keep everything cold, all the time, forever. The system works only because infrastructure rarely fails. But when it does, during power outages, transport delays, or mishandling, decay begins immediately. No buffer, no resilience, no margin. Roman preservation built food to survive imperfect conditions. Modern meat demands perfect ones. That difference explains why ancient meat endured time, while modern meat lives on borrowed hours. When you compare Roman meat to modern meat, the difference is not technology, it is intention. Romans preserved food to survive uncertainty. They expected delays, heat, distance, failure. Their methods removed what decay depended on and replaced fragility with endurance. The result was not convenience, it was resilience. Modern food systems optimized for speed, volume, and appearance. Preservation became optional because refrigeration could mask instability, at least temporarily. But that convenience came with a cost. When the system stumbles, food does not endure. It collapses. So did we improve food, or just make it profitable? Because one system built meat to last through time. The other builds meat to survive just long enough to be sold. If this made you see food differently, subscribe. We will keep uncovering systems that once worked and asking why we walked away from them.